Okay, so let's talk about adding a new listing. So intuitively, you've gone to the Resource Center, you've logged into Commercial Resource, you're at your dashboard, and you want to add a new listing, whether it's for sale or for lease, it doesn't matter really. You go to the Properties tab, so your dashboard is Documents, Properties, Content, Tools, and Resources. So click on the Properties tab, and from the Properties tab, if you've done any of the training, you know that you can add a new listing, you can edit an existing property or search for property. Today what we want to talk about is adding a new property. So click on Add a New Property, and you'll see that every required field is displayed, and it's also displayed with a red asterisk to remind you this is a required field. You can't not put information here. Another thing I'll tell you is that you can't move from page to page. So in other words, I couldn't click the next button until I fill in all of the required information on this page. So if I want to fill in other information more than what's required, there are dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of additional fields that you can fill in simply by clicking anywhere you see the Show Additional Fields. You can click it and it'll expand and show you different additional fields. So kind of let's get started here. Let's say this is a for sale listing. That's kind of the default. But if it's a for lease listing, simply pick for lease, and the data fields would change a little bit. But let's stick with for sale for now. And the property type, these are the industry standard property types. So let's say this is an office property. And we can just go along and fill in the required fields. So if I fill in that this is a sample property, and I'm going to put in my home address here. Not that Commercial Resource is intended for anybody to put their home in, but I'm just going to use it for demonstration purposes here. So as soon as I get an address in there, you'll notice, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, that the map area started updating itself as I got more and more information in there. So if you have a good and accurate address, it's going to map it for you very accurately. If you want to check it, you can by simply clicking on the plus button here. Now I live in a golf course community on the 13th hole, and I'm kind of the fourth house on the left on this Lake Jovita Boulevard. So all I did was put in the address. So let's zoom in a little bit here and let's make it a satellite, and you can see there's the first, second, third, fourth. So it's got it right exactly on top of my house. So it maps it very, very, very accurately for you. But if for some reason it's wrong, let's say it was this house, you can move the icon and put it on that house. And then once you go to the next page, next page, next page, get everything filled in and save the property, it'll save that little icon on wherever you put it. We always get questions on, what if, for example, I don't have an address. So let's get out of this and start over with a property that we don't have an address on. So let's go Add New Property, and let's say it's for sale. Let's say it's a piece of vacant land, and we'll call it sample land here. And now we don't have an address. It's just a big chunk of vacant land somewhere. Let's say it's at the northwest corner of I-75 and State Road 52 in San Antonio, Florida. So if you'll see what the system has done is it's tried to, I didn't spell that right. The system has tried to find the northwest corner of I-75 and State Road. I put 62. Let's put 52. And you'll see it's put it in the northwest quadrant of, let's zoom in a little bit here, State Road 52 and I-75. But if you want to be more exact, again, you can zoom in and say, no, it's not that property, it's right there. And then once you save it, it'll save for you and be very, very accurate for you. Again, anything with a red asterisk is a required field. If you want to put in more information, for example, show additional fields up here under the property type. Let's say that it's a piece of vacant land, then I want to do a subtype. It's hunting, industrial, land, leased land, multifamily, office, residential, retail, pad, retail, land. You know, I can pick a subtype if I want. I can put in keywords. I can pick a property use. Or I can say, no, I don't want to do any of that. More additional fields here for location type, MSA, and there's a drop down for all the MSAs in the United States are there. Web links, show additional fields. These are intended to be links to websites that have something to do with this listing. So for example, right now at this intersection of I-75 and State Road 52 near where I live, they're doing a massive redevelopment of this interchange and widening this road to 7 lanes each direction and changing the access and where the cloverleaf is. And the Department of Transportation has a website that explains that and shows graphics and really cool things. So if this really were my listing, I might put on here DOT, or let's see, Florida Department of Transportation improvements. And then I might put the URL here, you know, http:// dot whatever it might be. And then when people come to my listing and click on that link, they'll go to the Florida Department of Transportation website and see the information or anything. So you can put up to 3 web links there if you want to. It's not a required field, obviously, and you won't even see it unless you click the show additional fields. On the listing information, I would encourage everybody to show additional fields here. The default listing date is going to be the date today, the day you logged in. But if you want to change it, don't change it here and try to write it in. Click on the field and a calendar will drop down. And so let's say you really listed it on July 1st. Click on the calendar on July 1st. That'll save some formatting errors. Expiration date, just, you know, go out to whenever it is and click on it. Show additional fields. I would definitely do that here. You can put in the MLS listing ID number, not a required field, but it's a field we're going to use in the future. We won't talk about that now. This is a featured listing. If your company uses the public commercial website template for your local company, then you know what I'm talking about. If you check this here, then it'll make this a featured property on the home page of your local commercial public site. This is a third-party listing. Check that box. If you're doing a listing presentation, for example, and you want to put it into the system and show your potential client some of the things that you're going to do when they give you the listing, when they hire you, check this box so this won't feed out to any third-party CIEs. It won't represent to the world that this is currently a listing or anything like that, but you'll be able to use the flyer, you'll be able to use the APOD and cash flow analysis and all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, don't check that box. The default is that it's an active property in the system. If this box isn't checked, then it won't be discoverable by anybody anywhere. You'll be able to find it, but it won't be in your active listings. It'll be in all my properties. Let me tell you what I'm talking about there. When you click on the Properties tab, over here you can see My Active Listings, All My Properties. So if I click on My Active Listings, then, you know, hopefully intuitively, you're going to get all your active listings. An active listing is a property whose listing date is in the past, whose expiration date is in the future, and who it's marked active in that field I just showed you. So if one of those things isn't true, it's not active. You'll find it in all my properties. So in all my properties, I can come here and I can see this one's available, this one's leased, this one's available, and you can kind of scroll through them and find the one that's inactive, closed, pending. I don't know if I have any inactive listings in here. Maybe I need to put some just to show for demo purposes. I don't. But okay, here's one that's expired. So I could click on that and amend it and change it. My sold properties, my leased properties. But let's go back to what we were doing, adding a new property down here. I was trying to demonstrate why active property in the system, you need to make sure that's checked. If for some reason there's some confidentiality, you don't want this to show up at the bhhscre.com public site, check this box, hidden on public site, and then no one will be able to see it. If you're a Tier 2 subscriber, when you're done entering a property, the public will see a button that says View Offering Memorandum. If you want that button to appear, then you need to check this box. If for some reason you don't want it to appear, you just leave it unchecked. Again, for Tier 2 subscribers, if you want the system to export this out to all the various third-party commercial information exchange sites, make sure this box is checked. We get calls all the time and say, hey, you know, my listing isn't showing up in commercial search, or my listing isn't showing up at Property Shark, or whatever. And it's almost 100% of the time that when they were entering the listing, they forgot to check this box. So make sure that box is checked. I'm going to get out of this property because I don't want to enter information for a new property. Let's go to one that's already been entered. So again, you know, as you go through the system, you go next. Once you get all the required fields, and then you'll see there are other required fields under the property details area. So building data, again, you can show additional fields. This happens to be an office property, so it has gross rentable, usable square footage, load factor, other things. A retail property wouldn't have those. A piece of vacant land wouldn't have those fields. They'll have different fields. You'll see that the highlights, there are 3 required. There are 5 total. We recommend you fill in all 5 because it's more information. It makes your flyer look better and more complete. But there's all kinds, again, show additional fields, all kind of data fields that you can fill in, and we would recommend that you collect the information and as accurately as possible, fill in all of this data. Again, this happens to be an office building, so we're getting the fields for an office property. But they're self-explanatory, you know, the parcel ID number, access description, roadway description, legal description. You see lengthy, call for details, gross acres. When you put in the acreage, it'll multiply by 43,560 and automatically calculate the gross square footage. If there's wetland, you know, here in Florida, that's an important part of the description of the property. So it will automatically do the calculation and net out wetland acres to give you net usable acres. So you figure, you know, just fill in all of that is easy enough to do. Demographic information, you know, you put it in. We don't pull demographics for you, but when you get it, you know, you can fill it in here and it'll be there for you. The different utilities, water, sewer, electricity, natural gas, occupancy if it's a leased property, and on and on and on. You don't need me to go through each field by field. When you click next again, you'll come to the listing agents. By default, I'm logged in as me, so by default, the listing agent is going to be me. If I'm on this property with other people, if I've co-listed it, their names will, or everyone in the company's name will show up here, and I can highlight them and put them over here. So in this example, I've done that with Alan Crumbly and this sample agent. I put them on as additional associated with the listing, and I'll show you where that shows up. If somebody's on there in error, you just highlight them and then hit the left arrow button, and they'll come off. You want to put somebody on, you highlight them, hit the right arrow button, and they come on. Then you click next. Then this is where you put in the pricing. So the asking price is, you know, on this is $12.6 million. It will automatically divide by the gross square footage and rentable square footage and give you dollars per gross and dollars per rentable square footage. The default status is that the property is available. Once you get the property under contract, come in here, edit the property, and make it pending. Additional fields will show up. No one will see these, but it feeds information to your dashboard graphs and your sales manager. Once it's closed, go in, edit the property, and mark it closed. Other fields will show up, and this goes to feed your closed and pending dashboard graphs and puts the property in as a comparable sale that you and folks in your company can search and use next time. If for some reason you want to keep the price confidential, you just check that box and the price won't show up. It'll just say confidential. Click on next, and you can fill in financial information. So on this property, calendar year 14, the gross scheduled income was $1,458,000. The operating expenses, $728,000, so it automatically calculates the NOI, calculates a cap rate. We're proposing in this example that for fiscal year 2015, this would be the gross scheduled and operating expenses. So the NOI and cap rate would be that. Proposed purchase information at $12.6 million with 25% down. It calculates the total cash, the first mortgage. I put in the annual interest rate, the life of the loan, the number of payments per year, the amortization period. Then the system will automatically calculate the monthly principal and interest payments, the annual principal, and the sum of all the payments. So again, that's not required information. You don't have to put it in there. You could just click save, and once you click save, the system will give you this page. So this is kind of the summary of the listing that you just put in there. If you want to see what the public kind of view of it would be, you can click on View Public Listing, and you can and see all the information there. You can share it on email, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. These are those sample links I told you about. So when the public clicks on one, for example, they'll be brought to whatever website it is. I don't know what exactly this is. It's just a sample of something. So it gives you an idea. This is a Florida Department of Transportation website that I put in as a sample link. Related documents, we haven't gotten to that yet, but you can attach related documents and all kinds of things. So that gives you an idea, again, what the public looks like. So once you've saved the property and come to this page, the next part is you want to upload photos. So up here you'll see the Photos tab. Click on Photos. And it's a simple enough thing to, if you want to upload a photo, you just click on Upload. Then you give it a name, select a category. Is it a photo, an aerial, a map, or a blueprint? You choose the file from your hard drive, double click on it. I'm not going to do that, and it will upload. You have to upload pictures one at a time, and then you can do them in any order that you want, and then you can reorder them or edit them by clicking on the Photos tab, going to Edit, and then here in Edit you can simply give them a name, change the captioning. If you want to set a different picture as the current thumbnail, you just, let's say we want this one to be the current thumbnail. We check it and then say set thumbnail. So now that will be the main picture for this property. Make sense? If I click edit, I can also re-edit the order of these pictures. So that one's my thumbnail, so let's not change that. But let's say I wanted this picture here to be the second picture. I just reorder it that way and click save, and then they'll be saved. So when the public goes and looks at this property, they'll scroll through these pictures in this order. Related documents. On the Documents tab, I simply give the document a title, a description. I go to Choose File, go to my hard drive, double click on the document I want, and it will upload that document onto my listing. If it's an income producing property on the rent roll, I can very easily add the tenants to the space here. Add new entry, and this property already has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tenants in it. But if I wanted to add a new one, I click Add New Entry, suite number, let's call it 800. Rentable square footage is, let's call it 4,000 feet. Whoops. And then it's going to say, is this property leased? So I'm going to say, yes, it's leased. Then it's going to say, is it occupied? Yes, it's occupied. What's the name of the tenant? Let's just call them Test. Their lease start date was, let's just pick a day. Let's say December 1st, 2015. Their lease end date is, we'll pick something in the future. Their annual rent per square foot is, let's call it $18. Their CAM is, let's say 0. It's a full service lease. So you see what it's done is it's taken the 4,000 square feet times $18. Their annual rent is $72,000. The CAM is 0. The total monthly rent is $6,000. The total annual rent is $7,000. We can escalate that rent percent per year or dollars per square foot per year. Let's say we want to do a 5% a year. So we check percent per year, put in the number 5. The CAM, if it were going to escalate, we could do that too. and then we click Save or Done. If we're done completely entering tenants, we hit click Done. If we just want to save it and enter a new one, we click Save. So it's saved it now, and we can add a new entry or we can be done. So if we do that, and I'll show you all this on how it appears on the public site. You could also, if you wanted to, when you're going into the rent roll, you can enter, let's do a new entry. Let's say all you want to do is say that there's a tenant in there in 5,000 feet and that it is leased and that it is occupied, but you don't want to put in the tenant name. So just put, confidential 01 or something. Start date, you're not going to put that. End date, you're not going to. These aren't required fields. You don't have to put all that information in if you don't want people to see it. So you can also put in a total rent roll, complete rent roll, and then say keep rent roll confidential, so no one can see any of it. And then once you get a property under contract, you can make it available to the people that have it under the contract. So it's completely up to you how you want to do it. Let's just keep that one the way it is. So we've talked about entering a listing, we've talked about uploading photos, we've talked about attaching documents, we've talked about adding a rent roll. Now let's go and look at the property from the public's perspective. So the public website is bhhscre.com. That's where it's going to show up. It will also show up if your company uses the local public site. So let's go bhhsflp commercial.com. You can see that this is the corporate public site. This happens to be Florida Properties Group's site, and everything that they do in Commercial Resource with a listing or their bio is reflected here on the public site and here on their local public site. So these people carry on their business card bhhsflpcommercial.com instead of whatever their residential URL might be. I only mention that to tell you that whatever you do here is going to show up both here and if you use the local public site here. But we're going to stick with here. So let's look at that listing that we were just playing with. And if we, the easiest way to do it is to, I'm just going to search my name because it's a sample listing under my name. So I search for fields. There's my name. I click on my name. We see my bio. We talked about that last year, but at the bottom of my bio is linked all of my exclusive listings. So this is that sample office listing that we were just looking at. To prove it, it's sample investment office 12437 Lake Jovita. That's the picture that we picked, and there it is, sample office listing. And here's the picture that we picked, but there are several associated with. Every few seconds, a new picture scrolls through and goes, and I can look at it. I can come down here and I can read all about it. I can do whatever I want. So this is the public. It has the price. It has my bio, all these associated web links, the sample document that we attach to it. You can download it, do whatever you want. I'm not going to do that because I already have it. View offering memorandum. So the public could click on this. That's that button I told you about. And when they do, it's going to say, you must first agree to the following. So they have a confidentiality agreement here that they have to sign. I'll go through it. Let's just do it real quick. So once they fill in this information, click agree and say go. Remember, you're going to get an email saying, hey, this guy, Mike Fields, just signed the confidentiality agreement on your what's this called, sample investment office property, and they're going to get access. It's running slow today. I don't know why. Did I click it? Oh, there we go. So you're going to get an email saying, hey, Mike Fields just signed the confidentiality agreement to your sample investment office. Here's his name, here's his phone, here's his email. He's looking at it right now. Give him a call. And I, the guy who signed it, am going to get access to all these tabs. So everything that's here. So here's the summary, here's the details. Now remember, this is an office property, and we filled in the data on all the available fields. So it's all there. The financial information we put in is all there. The rent roll is all there. You can expand and get more detail. And on some of these tenants, like this one, that was the last one we added. Here's several of those that we just did. You can see how it comes instantly. Here's a tenant that we added that we didn't put any information. We just said it's the name of the company and how many square feet they have. Here's a tenant that we added. The same thing. We didn't give a lot of detail. We just said here's the name of the tenant and it's an occupied space. So you can do whatever you want there. Maps. In anything that I uploaded that I selected a map, it will up. I mean, the main map will always upload here, and it's interactive, and you can zoom in and zoom out and do all that. But any other maps that I uploaded would be associated here. Related documents that I attached will be here for them to see. If they have the property under contract and they want access to the due diligence documents, they would click this tab. I won't get into that. We did a webinar on that several weeks ago. And if they want to share this listing with up to 5 other people, they can put their email addresses in here, click send. They'll get an email. They'll have to sign the confidentiality agreement, and everything will be good to go there. So that's what happens when you enter a property into the system. That's how it kind of works. That's where you can go with it. I'm going to step back into commercial resource here and talk about 2 more things very, very quickly that you can do when once you've got a property in the system. One of them is you can create a flyer. So just if you're a Tier 2 subscriber, click PDF flyer. There's instructions here, but basically it says drag up to 3 pictures. So I'm going to drag these 3. Then I'm going to say, well, wait a minute, I want that one to be first, or that one to be third, or whatever. And then there are a bunch of data points you can select. It says up to 6. So I'm just going to drag, indiscriminately data fields here. There's 6, and let's say that I want to put that field first and that field second, get them the way you want them. Then you just click generate, and then in very short order, maybe 5 seconds, it's generated for me a very nice high-level brochure or one-page flyer. It's got the name, the address, my company logo, the pictures, the map, all the listing agents, disclaimer. All that is there, and I can save that to my hard drive. I can email it. I can do whatever I want with it, print it, whatever. The last thing I'll show you is the cash flow analysis. Now, we've done a webinar on the cash flow analysis, so go to that. I'm not going to get in great detail, but just click on that button to start generating your cash flow analysis and your APOD and annual property operating data statement and your cash flow analysis for however many years you want to do it. So that's a big, a lot of information on how to add a listing. Let's go back now and see what kind of questions we have. I see that there are some here, and I haven't been really looking at them too good. So let's start taking them one at a time here. Any autofill from commercial MLS? No. The reason for that is manyfold. Number one, first, the system was designed to be kind of the single point of entry for all your data, and then once you enter it into commercial resource, it will syndicate out to wherever we need it to go. Right now, we have as many as 84 publicly accessible CIE type sites that have windows open that can pull data. Another problem with MLS is it's different because it's a residential-based system. There's fee sharing and all kinds of other things that are requirements in MLS, and many commercial listings don't offer to share fees or sub-agency or any of that kind of stuff, so that's an issue. But really the more important and biggest issue is that when we try to pull information from a, quote, MLS system, even the ones that purport to be commercially oriented, the data fields are woefully inadequate. For example, the MLS systems will have a data field called gross square footage. And we pull that into our system. Let's say it's an office building, and we have a data field in the, quote, MLS system that says square footage, and we pull it into our system. We have no idea where to put it. It's an office. Is it gross? Is it rentable? Is it usable square footage? If we put it in the wrong field, somebody's going to get sued because there's going to be a misrepresentation there, and gross rentable and usable square footages are vastly different concepts. So that's just one tiny example of the inadequacies. We have literally hundreds of data fields for each property type and subtype, and the MLS systems are just so woefully inadequate that what ends up happening is we pull in data that's unusable. And somebody has to go in and manipulate it so much in order to make it usable that it's just a heck of a lot easier to start from scratch, enter it into commercial resource, make sure you check that third-party CIE button, and it'll syndicate out to CCIM, Redx, RealUp, Rofo, Commercial Search, Catalyst, all the other places that we're able to. The only place that will not take a data feed is LoopNet. So that's that, hopefully. Is there a list of third-party sites that the listings... Yeah, you can go to the Documents tab and go to the Network Documents, and you'll see a folder here called Third-Party Listing Syndication, and there's a JPEG, a Word, and a PDF document that'll show you that. Could you please explain when to check the third-party box? Check the third-party box whenever, the original intention of that box was that people who do buyer and tenant rep work wanted to put, let's say you're doing a buyer rep assignment, you're representing the XYZ company to buy a 5,000 square foot building to move their dental practice into. And you get it under contract. Your company doesn't have it listed. It's listed by Smith Commercial Realty in your town. But you want to put it into the system. You want it to show up on your dashboard. Remember your dashboard here has closed and pending transaction graph. You want it to show up there. You want it to be in the reports and all of that. You want to track it, but it's not your listing. So you can put it into the system and check this is a third-party listing. So the system knows not to allow it to show up in any searches of any kind, not to feed it out to any public websites, not to feed it out to any third-party CIEs. We don't want to represent to the world that this is a listing when it's not. But you can put it into the system so the system will have it there and you'll be able to track it. Then once it closes, then you mark it closed and it can go into your closed and pending transactions as well. Hopefully that answers that. How do we delete a sample listing we made? Don't put in, quote, sample listings. I do just for this because we can delete them, but once you get a listing in, it cannot be deleted. Again, if you go to the FAQs, it says here, where do I see it? How do I delete a listing? Listings cannot be deleted. Sold or leased commercial properties should be marked as such on the pricing tab of the property edit screen. Entering sold and or leased information will not make the information visible. Expired listings should have their status changed from active to inactive by unchecking the active property in the system checkbox in the details page. That's that one I showed you. So there's no reason to put in a sample listing. Just don't do it. If you've put one in, just make it inactive, and the next time you get a listing, go to that listing, change the name of it, change the address of it, change all that, and you can use it, and you won't have it clogging up anything, and you won't have it in there. But again, how do I delete a listing? You cannot. And the reason you can't is there are many reasons for that. One is, let's say you get a listing, and let's say, for whatever reason, it doesn't sell, and it expires, or the seller decides to take it off the market. Maybe they list it with someone else, and then a year later, they come back and want to list it with you again. Well, all the information's in there. All you got to do is reactivate it, update the information. Let's say they list it with someone else and you end up selling it. Well, you can go in and make it active third party, and it'll show up on your graphs. The other reason is when you put a listing into the system, there's a lot of things that are attached to it, pictures, documents, all kinds of rent roll, all that stuff. And if you just delete the listing, it becomes very problematic as to what to do with all that attached information, pictures and documents and all that other stuff. So again, you can't delete a listing. So don't put sample listings in, I would suggest. Let's see if there are any other questions here. I don't see any other questions. Got to be more questions than that. I'm not that good at explaining things. We've got a lot of people logged in too. All right. Well, I don't see any more questions. If you don't have any more questions, then the last thing I'll tell you is here's a question. That's not a question. That's a nice comment. Thanks, Mike. The last thing I will say is log into the Resource Center and click on Commercial Resource. I've changed my vocabulary. I've stopped saying log into Commercial Resource because you don't log into Commercial Resource, and that seems to confuse people. You log into the Resource Center and click on Commercial Resource to get in. But go into Commercial Resource and check out the News and Announcements section from time to time. You know, right here, for example, this news item is a reminder about today. Hopefully you got that. Anytime I post something in the News and Announcements, it shows up on your dashboard and you get an email about it. But in this one, for example, I've connected the training calendar. So if you want to not wait for me to announce in an email when the next training is, you can come here and click on the training calendar and download it. It's a shared calendar in iCalendars, and you can see all the future training with the registration links and all that kind of stuff. So I would, you know, challenge you to stay up on that. Let's see. Here's another question. As an office admin, do I have access to my agent's listings? Possibly, but let's check. Let's see. Who was that? Denny. So Denny Bush, can you hear me? I opened your microphone. Yes. Great. It depends. So let's. What company are you with?
Berkshire Hathaway River Towns Realty.
River Towns. So what I did was I'm in Commercial Resource. I go to the Tools and Resources, and I click Browse Users, and then in the drop-down menu, let's find your company, River Towns. So right now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people who are using Commercial Resource. And you see this star next to your name? Mm-hmm. That means that you have the roster management role of Commercial Resource Company Manager. What that means is to answer your question, yes. When you go to your dashboard, for example, you'll see your listings. But you'll have a drop down here, for example, that'll say the default will be My Listings, but you'll have a drop down here that'll say show me all the company listings, all the listings from the branch that I'm associated with, or all the listings from any person in that branch. And you can do that with the closed and pending, the active properties, or the upcoming expirations as well.
Okay.
Fair enough?
Yep. Thank you.
All right. No worries. Any other questions? That was a good question. All right, don't seem to be any other questions. It's a little bit after noon Eastern time. I want to again thank you all for taking time out of your day to be a part of this and for the questions that you did ask. I know that it's a time, it's important time, but hopefully you got something out of this, and this will help make you more efficient, more effective, more professional, and at the end of the day, make you more money. If you have any additional questions, just send them to me. Email me at mwfields@orioncre.com, or you can call me. My direct number is 813-739-5740. I'll be happy to do what I can to help you in any way I can. So thank you very much, and you all have a great day.